أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق وإن فريقا من المؤمنين لكارهون صدق الله العظيم. As we mentioned before, the Surah Al-Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions regarding the ahkam, the rulings regarding jihad and militarily engaging with others, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assisted nusrah of the Muslimun, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Muslimun gave defeat to those who are a'da of Allah, the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that ultimately the success of the believers and of the Muslim ummah, the success of the Muslim ummah is in following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Success both in this world and in the hereafter. All of that is defined by how the Muslim ummah follows and upholds the sunnah and the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here the ayah karima starts with كَمَا أَخْرَجَكَ رَبُّكَ. Now, for a little background, the word kama is used for when you make a comparison between two things. Kama means just like. Right? If you say this is like that, this is just like that. So what happens? You're comparing one thing with another thing. So if you say A is like B, so A is being compared to B. Okay? So kama, and then after that, the ayah comes that كَمَا أَخْرَجَكَ, just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took you out from your home. So what is being compared? To what is it being compared? In Arabic you call that the mushabbah bihi. In balagha we refer to that mushabbah bihi. And what is it being compared to? So that the ayah kalima here doesn't explicitly mention. Hence mufassirun give various, very apt meanings to that. One very agreed upon meaning is that in the previous ayat, and in the incident where, now this is all after Badr, in the context is, these are being revealed after Badr. Even the very first ayat, يَسَأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ when the Sahaba asked about the ghanaim and spoils of war, the distribution that we did the tafsir of the ayah. So what did we say? That was after Badr. Yani Waqa'at Badr occurred, the battle of Badr occurred, and then after that, these ayat are, okay, what happened in the spoils of war, etc., etc. So these ayat also are all being revealed shortly after the Ghazwah of Badr, the Battle of Badr. So just as over there the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they differed amongst themselves, they discussed this, and they had various opinions, and we spoke about the context at the time and the emotions and whatnot. And at the end, what happened is that the ayah kalima was revealed. The Sahaba anhum, they wholeheartedly agreed to what the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided in that matter. And what was the result of that? That there was khair, there was goodness. The ummah stayed together, there was unity of the ummah, evenly the spoils were distributed, everyone was happy. So the result was what? Positive. Why was it positive? Because you followed what Allah and His Rasul said. Okay. So just as that result was positive, that you had some difference over there and you discussed and their emotions were arisen at that time, but because you put all of that aside, emotions aside, what I want aside, my opinion aside, right? You put yourself aside, and you agreed wholeheartedly to the decision of Allah and Rasul, you saw these positive results. In the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed over here that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed for you or made you come out of your home with the truth, yani for the waqi' of Badr itself. Okay? So كَمَا أَخْرَجَكَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَيْتِكَ بِالْحَقِّ, in the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took you out for the very waqi' of Badr, for the very battle of Badr. Here if we notice, in each word of the Quran Kareem, ajib how much objectivity there is over there. The word أخرجك is used. So أخرج is when you take someone or something up. What may have what might come to the mind is, kharajta should be used. Kharajta means that when you come out, right? So for example, if someone, asks you, and you say that I left my house, right? Or you say you left your house. Versus akhrajaka means he took you out of your house. You see the difference? One is you yourself come out, you say I came out. The other is someone took me out. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying akhrajaka. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Rabb, akhrajaka, he made you come out. To show that the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't just do things himself. You, the ummah, is being told, follow Allah, follow the command of Allah. Do you think the Rasul is any other than that? Do you think he doesn't do that? He also does that. He's the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Definitely his position as a Rasul is definitely there. But even the Rasul is mahkum. Even the Rasul is commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the Rasul is tabi' to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's also subordinate to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And what the Rasul does, that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. It goes both ways. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, the Rasul. What the Rasul does, that means that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. That's how you understand it. Kama akhrajaka. And which sifa, which quality of is being used over here? The context is jihad again, right? It doesn't say kama akhrajaka al-jabbar. That could have been used. Al-aziz could have been used. The various qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which show the power, qadir, qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any of these could have been used as well. But which quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being used here? Rabbuk. Rabb, rububiyah. So what's the connection over here? What does rububiyah have to do with this over here? So just as we understand that part of development, there is if you want to say a kind of positive form of development, then part of development is also what? To remove what is bad. That is also part of a development. One is positive and active and constructive, if you want to call it. One is constructive. Give it a simple example, that if you want to build somewhere, there is a land, or if you want to garden. So before you plant the flowers, what do you have to do? There's going to be weeds there as well, right? You remove the weeds as well. If it's a land which is not very suitable, you may have to flatten it first, right? You can't just go and start painting. I don't know about you can't just start painting. If there's something that needs to be fixed, you fix that first, that wall needs to be fixed. On top of that, then you can put plaster. That's part of rububiyyah of Allah Ta'ala, how He develops. That's part of it, right? That what the bad apples must be removed as well. That's part of the rububiyyah of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So jihad, in our understanding, it has to do with, as the Quran Al-Kareem very clearly says, that وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. This is part of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's sunnah in this world. That if the struggle is not there, that those are upon haqq, if they don't stand up, even when the time is for physical, if they don't stand up, then لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. Then there will be fasad in that. We're not pacifists. Islam is not about pacifists. Peace is one thing, being pacifist something else. And the Quran came out, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسِ بَعْضًا بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعُ وَصَلَوَاتُ وَمَسَاجِدُ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. If that's not there, then you won't see the places of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being established either. Salah will not be able to pray. As it happens, right? Throughout history you saw that when those that are zalim and oppressors, when they take over a place, then many things of salah and virtue and righteousness, all of that is banned. They're not able to perform those deeds. They're unable to do it. So that's why our ulama and fuqaha, whenever they discuss the issue of jihad, it's about what? Daf'ul muharaba. We remove hostility, removing violence. But that sometimes requires force. Like it or not like it, this is the nature of man. This is the reality of life. So kama akhrajaka rabbuka. The sifa of rububiyyah is not removed from this. This is part of rububiyyah. This is part of human development. This has to be there. Rabbuka min baytik. From your bayt, from your home, yani from Medina Munawwara. Bil haqq. This was based off of haqq. Another tafsir of this ayah is that many ulama, as we said, one part is hidden, what we call mahdhuf, it's a drop. That nasaraka kama akhrajaka rabbuka min baytik. that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assisted you because you left your homes for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you left and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitated this leaving of yours, and it was on the name of haqq and truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assisted you. So what does that tell us? That sometimes for ihqaq al-haqq and for establishing the haqq and the truth and ibtal al-batil, removing falsehood and wrongs, then as we say in Urdu, you need a little bit harkat. You gotta move a little bit too. Everything's not going to happen, you're just sitting at home. There has to be some mujahada, there has to be some movement. You have to leave things what you don't like. It's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always what things come in, platters for you. So that's not going to happen. So until the ummah doesn't, revive the sunnah of sacrificing and giving up things and moving, then the same nusra we perhaps should not expect for that. That it's just going to come like this. But there has to be some movement as well. وَإِنَّ فَرِيقًا مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ لَكَارِهُونَ. And one group from the mu'minun, they were not very interested. They were not. They did not like this. To leave the homes, to leave Medina Munawwara. There was also a discussion with Sahaba regarding that. The tafsir of this, inshallah, we'll understand next week when we give, inshallah, the entire background of Badr, and we'll tie that in with this last portion of the ayah as well. These ayah, there's a lot of details, a lot of background that's required. 10-15 minutes, it's obviously not. So inshallah we'll break it up in different sessions, and inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the understanding of these ayat. صدق الله العظيم سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك